See, I think we connected. Blessings, blessings. I don't know if you guys can hear me and see me. I pray that you guys can hear me and see me. I'm going to check my other phone. We are live at the board of registration election hearing. Now, this is going to be a formal residence meeting here. So I'm going to capture all of the residence meeting, and this is where Tiffany is supposed to be challenged today at 11 a.m. Now, you guys know that I was one of the few that wrote down here to make them aware of certain issues. So I'm just going to say love and respect. Make sure that everything is good. Love and respect to the board here. So I will make a comment, and it's not going to, y'all see what I want to say. Make a comment. But I am pretty excited the fact that they were so responsive. Like, that's rare that communities or boards are so responsive. So that's a blessing. But I'm gonna let y'all see inside of the boardroom. It is so nice, y'all. It is nice. Yeah, it started at 11 o'clock. I already have my Justice for Alexis shirt hanging up. I was gonna wear it, but I didn't have enough time to go home and change. So I'm straight coming off for 4 12 hours. That's how important this is for me. So this is the board area. This is where they're gonna have the room. Y'all see that little shirt right there and that cup? That's me right there. And this is where they're gonna have it. So y'all gonna see the general board meeting, and this is the schedule for today. So you can see the schedule where the challenge is kind of towards the last thing before the executive session. So I want you guys to be patient. Thank you for tuning in. Before I start talking my stuff, check it out. Fulton County is doing their thing. It is so nice. Well, y'all, like I'm in an art gallery. Now, y'all know I like this type of stuff. And I haven't had my Atlanta tours in the last couple of weeks. So just check this out before we go in there. Start at 11 o'clock. This is so beautiful. So much talent. I just want to start the morning off right. Okay. So guys, I'm gonna head in there. Hopefully if y'all can't hear me, let me know. I'm gonna take the mic off, but I really want you guys to hear everything. Pretty much this meeting looks like it's gonna be just like kind of like the Dalton meeting where they're gonna approve the agenda, pledge allegiance, approve the meeting minutes just from the other meetings, just the basics. See if Tiffany stand up for herself as far as combating this challenge. Closed mouth don't get fed. He cute. I'm sorry. I'm supposed to tell him that. He all waving at the lady. Nah, I wouldn't even date an officer, y'all. But he's cute. Now don't pay no mind for 12 hours. So I'll probably be a little silly, but I'll try not to say too much. A little delusional. So I'm gonna set my camera up. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, Truman. How are you? Blessings, blessings, prima donna, blessings, 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 highly favored. Give me a second, y'all. I'm setting up my camera so I don't have to hold it. Okay. Now, if y'all can't hear what goes on when it starts, I need you guys to let me know, and I will take my earpiece off. But they look like they got a good sound system here, and I don't think they're gonna pull adulting. You know how they be muting the mic. Okay. Can y'all hear anything in the background? I hope you guys are having a great morning. I'm excited. I'm so excited, y'all. I'm so excited. I ain't even sleepy. I'm just delusional. If y'all have any questions, let me know. I left my paper that I challenged home. I could have, reread it to you, but basically, I'm not challenging her because I can't. But I think the board took up the complaint. So the things they will be addressing today is the address situation when she moved here. I don't know if they were able to Freedom of Information request the information from Dalton and Thornton, but the verification of her being a mayor and Thornton Township supervisor. So they're doing things by the book. The board is here. The lady who was holding me, and she she gonna eat Tiffany food. Look at her. She gonna eat this lady. This one, the one with the pink. That's the board. So let's see what happened. Oh no, excuse me. They look alike. That's the lady. The lady. I thought the lady with the pink was her. That's the other lady from the meeting that we watched the other day. That I know she's gonna be very thorough. So I think it should be starting in a few minutes. If y'all have not seen the agenda, this is the agenda. Also, don't forget this, y'all. Oh, shit, my butt. You know I'm aggy. She gonna testify and it's gonna be right here in her face. Baby, she gonna remember. She gonna remember everything. This called a silent protest. Okay, justice for Alexis. Oh, William Moore is missing. We hope. What do you mean, William Moore? Who William? This is prima donna. This not Dalton. This is Fulton County. I'm in Atlanta. Y'all probably don't know. Some of the people who used to watch me go over the Dalton thing, I'm not from out there. I'm from out here in Atlanta. Like I traveled out there. I fell in love with my family, but I'm actually from Jersey. Let me correct that. That's why I vibe with them. But this is Fulton County Registration of Election Board because Tiffany is trying to run for commissioner out here. In the commissioner position, we went over what it all entail, and she'll have a lot of money in her hand. So that ain't happening. No, we're not adulting. And I was saying to myself, why she didn't go to Chicago? Like, why does she think that she could come out here and do this? As you know, guys, Tiffany been out here in Atlanta for a little while, and she has a business. She broadcasted. I never went to the business, guys. I'm not that type of content creator because I wasn't focused on Tiffany. I was focused on the wrongdoing, the lawsuits, just exposing the truth of justice for Alexis. But when she went to go for this position in WGN, is that WGN? Highly favored. They jumped on it. You know, Ben. He every move she made. I said, there's no way that I'm gonna have to sit through this. So I'm going to do like they're gonna ask if we wanna do when is it community and public comment. Now I'm not gonna say too much, but I'm gonna keep it short and sweet, and I'm definitely gonna thank them for addressing, like I said, me highlighting that I don't live in Fulton County. I don't live in this particular county. I live a little further, like 40 minutes out. But this is the county that I service. Like this building is right down the street from where I get food out, right down the street. And I want to give you guys a heads up. It's been about 3 weeks. I haven't been able to feed the homeless, feed my friends, because I have been very restricted financially. Um, like I said, my budget seemed to have got up to like $500-600 a month feeding my displaced friends, which was a good budget. But me being single, have some bills, I had to retract. So I have a plan. Pray for me, guys. I want to go back out there the first week of April. Where we at? We in April? We in April already? May. Yeah, I need another 2 weeks, and I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna start giving food out and everything, and pray that I'll be able to give more out. Like they wanted the ponchos, so just wanted to give y'all heads up. I didn't stop. Um, I would appreciate a little bit of support. So like I said, $1.60 can feed one person. That's how good I budget. But at the end of the day, I just been praying, asking people to pray for me so resources could come to me. Because when I drive down these streets, I see so many homeless people. Like they're living under the bridge. I mean, whole apartment type setups. It's bad. And I mean, right up in this beautiful place that we looking at. Let's not talk about it because it bothers me. Because that's one of the things we should not have in America is homelessness. Allegedly the richest country in the world. A lot of us is literally one paycheck from being homeless. So that's why I definitely have a lot of love for them, because there were times that I was in between housing and had to figure it out. And it was not an easy situation. So hopefully I can get some resources for them. Um, and maybe I can help acclimate them back into society. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I have talked to someone who like bring homeless people back into healthcare already. I have one person resource, but they kind of deal with people with insurance, and you know them homeless people ain't got insurance. So I have to find a way to bridge that gap. So I'm going to keep you guys up to date, because this year I'm really pushing my community nursing, health and wellness, and I'll keep you guys up to date on that. So with that being said, I hope this thing about to start. Give me a second. Oh, you said you know Prima Donna? He used to mute the mic. Oh, that's what you said. Oh, that was William. Oh, yes. William used to mute the mic. Yes. Hello. Let's see what time it is. Yes. Okay. It should be starting soon. It's 11 o'clock. So I'm going to turn the camera around. Thank you guys for joining me. If y'all cannot hear them, say, I cannot hear, and I'm going to disconnect my mic so you guys can hear it straight from the phone. But if you haven't seen it, here's the agenda. And we, dun, dun, dun. We're going to get that thing about me. I told y'all I'm sleepy. I'm going to be silly. The Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections regular meeting is being held April 9th, 2026 at 11. Can you hear it? Press 1 for yes, 2 for no. Turned off prior to the meeting. If you are speaking, you should have given Ms. Pattison and her team a comment card prior to the meeting. All speakers will be granted up to 2 minutes and a total of 60 minutes per meeting. Can I get a motion for approval of the agenda? Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. 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 Pledge of allegiance. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you.
I don't have the cards yet for the public comment section, so I'm sure they'll bring them. So while I'm waiting for the cards to be brought to me for public comment. Okay, usually they're on my desk. Okay, so comment section, I'll name you 3 people, and please come up and send one behind the other so I don't have to wait then to call the next person. Kevin Muldowney, Michael Gordon, Ellie King.
Good morning. I didn't see board member Selby First Amendment crushing public policy on the current agenda. Perhaps he had second thoughts, perhaps the board's attorney advised against it, or maybe you just have other fish to fry. In any case, thank you for the response. Public comments are one of the last avenues to voice our opinion and influence public policy. To squelch it would be a mistake. There is some confusion as to the status of the Alpharetta Library on election day. I had first heard it was removed as a voting location and replaced by a mosque. I now understand this is not the case. I would suggest more thorough communication with voters on this matter. However, the proposal to accept absentee ballots on all election day polling places and county offices seems to be a problem. They're exposing all sorts of potential chain of custody issues. We need to at least have voters show their ID and have that ID recorded when using this controversial voting method. One drop box per 100,000 registered voters, plus the ability to actually mail a mail-in ballot, seems to be more than adequate opportunity to cast an absentee vote. I believe electors now have approximately 216 voting hours to cast their vote, including at least one of them. It's simply amazing to think, not long ago, we managed it all in a single 12-hour day. Thank
you. Michael Gordon, Fulton County. We still got a lot of problems with our elections. You know, I guess first thing is I hope you guys don't pursue this avenue of this editing what we can and can't say and kicking us out and say the wrong things or say it the wrong way or we move too much, because that's not right. You really shouldn't be doing that. We should be able to express ourselves. It's not your job to determine what is misinformation and what is fact. That's up to the people to determine. That's one thing. Really unfortunate that in our session this year, we did not get any meaningful legislation to improve our election situation. We still have horrendous voter rolls, and that's not misinformation. There's just all sorts of records there that are invalid, that are still on the rolls. We cannot have secure elections when we don't even know if people are voting under false pretenses. So we got problems. We still got the QR codes. You know, that's illegal. I mean, we can't even tell how we voted and how it's being counted. The process isn't transparent. You say your goal is to have transparency. Ridiculous. It's just not true. So maybe you guys can work on that. Get better at that, and you know, confront this problem and talk to the commissioners, talk to the legislators, what the problems are, instead of just sitting here and rubber stamping a process that's very insecure. I hope you guys have something good comes into your heart where you actually see the light and start doing the right thing, because we the people notice we're not being fooled. Our elections still suck. So sorry. Thank you. Bye.
So in 2021, the sheriff said that it was a myth that if you want to commit a crime, come to Fulton County. This was a post that he posted back in 2021. And as Fulton County turns, and as we open up the Fulton steam files, guess what we find out from there? All of you. Tiffany, how is that so that she is able to come to Fulton County that is becoming a hub for corruption, deception, manipulation, and be able to just sign in? Now, keep in mind, I feel like she was sent. I feel like it was something done by the Democratic Party. Yes, I do. That's just allegedly by me. That's my opinion. Because how is it that she's a sheriff in a whole nother state, come here able? This is just showing the disconnect of the work and the leaders that we have here in Fulton County. Because she's registered still as a mayor in a whole other state and able to come here, the hub of corruption in Fulton County, and register. And y'all are sitting up here confused. But then Julie, Jason, they can't even get a seat at the table to do right by the people because of the corruption of the Democratic Party. Now, this is for our Black people, because Harriet Tubman want to know, Malcolm X want to know, when is integrity going to step up to the plate? Because see, here in Georgia, Black people wasn't even supposed to be sitting in front of nobody.
That's your
Get
time
it
now.
together.
Thank you.
The next speaker, and we will not have clapping and keep the decorum of the meeting. Ms. Gaudio, Maria Gaudio. Nurse Lashley is next after Maria Gaudio, and then Al Edwards.
Good morning. So I'm very disappointed that the QR code abolishment goes into law in just a couple months, and I don't see it on the agenda as to what your plan is. It would make sense that for a primary election, you would have a dry run of what you're going to do. But it looks like you're going to use the machines again, and your employees, everyone working at the polls, is most of those folks can't remember 20 years ago what we did with paper ballots, but we're going to have to go back to paper ballots because you have no alternative plan unless you want to break the law again. You know what's to stop you? We have two attorneys on the board who don't know the First Amendment. That's okay too, because we have two attorneys on the Board of Commissioners who don't understand standing. How did you get bar cards and not know the First Amendment? Crazy, but you don't. We have custody issues. We have fraudulent voting from our records. It's not just a few here, a few there. It's tens and maybe even hundreds of thousands. And if you didn't want the ballots, why would Shay Alexander want to destroy them? Why would Nadine Williams say, I don't care about the ballots, you can make paper airplanes as far as I'm concerned. But yet you want them back because you know that you're guilty. You know there's something there. You don't want DOJ or the FBI to find it. Fulton County is the hub of fraud. And now you're probably going to let Tiffany Henyard run for county commissioner, aren't you? That's what you're going to do, aren't you? She hasn't been here a year like the law
Time is up.
says she should be.
Good evening, how are you? My name is Nurse Lashley. I'm actually a resident of Henry County, but I want to first start off by saying thank you for addressing the issue that I brought to your attention about Tiffany Henyard and how long she's been in the county and her not really being able, in my opinion, for what I reviewed, to run as commissioner. It is disheartening to hear everything that I hear your residents saying because I do go to a lot of board meetings and listen. and it sounds very repetitive. So basically, I pray that you guys ensure that you don't let Tiffany Henyard come into this county and do what she did on the south side of Illinois, leaving it more than $200,000 plus in debt in the section of the PD, $3.1 million lawsuit that she caused from her neglect and much more. So with that goes to say, I want to say thank you so much for even just addressing this particular issue today, but it do dishearten me for what I hear. And I would like to add one more thing. I give out food right up the street at the church. And it's really disheartening to see all of these beautiful buildings, law enforcement and everything, and there's not really no services here. I'm spending my money from another county, these $500 a week to feed 100 people a week, and I don't see any resources for them. So if you know any resources that can help me provide more food for them, for your county, please let me know. But it is really disheartening to see that right outside. Have a good day.
Good morning. I have to apologize first for thank you for having me here. I've got to use my cell phone, but it is on silent and not going to disturb us. The question before us today is whether or not to use the Islamic Center rather than the Alpharetta Public Library as a polling place. It, as its core, is a question about liberty and equality and the true meaning of the Constitution. The framers of the Constitution and later the authors of the Bill of Rights enshrined a radical idea of their time that freedom of religion was not only tolerated, but protected. The principle is not passive, it's active. It calls upon us to ensure that religious institutions are not pushed to the margins of public life, but welcomed as equal participants in the civic fabric. To choose to keep the Islamic Center as the polling place is to affirm that principle. To recognize that the Constitution does not establish a hierarchy of acceptable places for community engagement. Rather, it prohibits government by an extension in society from favoring one viewpoint or type of institution over another, a form of discrimination. Some may argue that a public library would be more neutral. I would tend to disagree with that, even though it would satisfy some. This is a part of the participation process that is essential to our way of life as Americans. We're living out that principle in the government. Society must neither establish religion nor inhibit its free exercise. It sends a message, not just locally in Alpharetta, but more broadly, that inclusion is not theoretical, it's practice. This isn't DEI, because this is religious freedom. It's visible and it's real. The Constitution does not ask us to choose the most familiar option. It asks us to choose the most faithful
That's your
one.
time, sir.
Thank you.
Autumn Miller, Ralph O'Connor.
I'm here to talk about the handling of the ballots during advance voting. I'm concerned very much with having all the 22 additional non-drop box locations having a drop bag, that violates the intent of the law that you can only have one drop box per 100,000 votes or voters. But the other thing that I find very concerning that I've heard about here at the meetings the last couple of times is the removal of all of the ballots from the scanners every day. I fear that this is going to cause a lot of chain of custody problems. I don't know, are you getting all the ballot suitcases that every day from each scanner that are going to be removed? If there's 32 polling locations with it. At least 2 scanners each, that's 64 scanners daily have been emptied for 19 days. That's 1,216 ballot suitcases or transport cases and 1,216 opportunities for error to be injected in the handling of these ballots and the storing of the ballots and recording the ballots. What happens if the scanner at that moment that has, doesn't align with the totals on the BMDs and the poll tax. Do they get removed anyway, and they'll just figure it out later? Are those suitcases gonna be flagged? I've got so many questions on this. One also, will the public be, being informed, sort of like with the reports that the department does online of how many ballots were picked up at the drop box, how many have come in, all of that.
That's your time.
Morning. My name is Ralph O'Connor. I've been a Fulton County election day poll clerk for 4 years. I have 4 suggestions related to nonpartisan ballot requests. Some voters don't know a nonpartisan ballot only shows judges. They think Georgia's open primary means you can mix parties on your primary ballot, so they may select a nonpartisan ballot, missing the opportunity to vote for U.S. senators, governor, etc. As of yesterday's publicly available absentee voter file, 1,380 Fulton County voters have requested absentee ballots. 55 of them requested nonpartisan ballots. That's almost 4%, enough to decide who gets into the runoff. I asked the department work with the county external affairs multimedia election education campaign that you've heard about for the last couple of meetings to inform voters of the downside of selecting a nonpartisan ballot. If they're not already doing this, department staff should contact voters who requested a nonpartisan absentee ballot to give them the opportunity to switch to a partisan ballot of their choice. My third suggestion is that poll workers be instructed to post sample ballots in a conspicuous place near the entrance to the voting area, and to remind voters that nonpartisan ballots only have judicial candidates. Where I work, we post a couple dozen required notices, including sample ballots, on the wall to the entrance to our voting area, but the absentee ballots are usually not near the door. When a voter is checked in the poll pad, the clerk can see which ballot they've selected. Poll clerks should be instructed to show a sample nonpartisan ballot to any voter who selected a nonpartisan ballot and remind them it does not contain any partisan races. If the voter chooses to switch to a partisan ballot, poll clerks should be trained on how to do this. This will be much simpler than having to cancel and redo check-in.
That's
when
your time,
voters
sir.
discover they selected the wrong ballot.
Thank you. I have to revisit something for the board. The emergency polling relocation.
No. We were advised there's a problem with the YouTube feed. So I just wanted to make an announcement for those who want to watch to go to FUTV on the Fulton County website to be able to watch the board meeting today.
Has everyone heard that? Go to the FGTV website.
Well, the Fulton County website, and you can link to FGTV on the Fulton County website.
Okay, thank you. We have an emergency polling relocation. That's what needed to be amended to the agenda needed to be amended to discuss that. And so we have to go back to that. We approved the agenda, but that's what we need to add in. And I can speak to that. Someone here today spoke to the Istanbul Cultural Center. It is no longer available. They withdrew their ability to have it as a polling location. There was a lot of negative feedback, and they felt for the safety of all voters and their own staff that they should not remain a polling location. So under the law, within it's less than 90 days, it should be, we have to vote for an emergency polling location. It's within our discretion if it's unavailable, and they have said it's unavailable. Before we have the attorney speak to it, we can have them speak to it during the discussion of it, but we need to amend the agenda in order to have that discussion. I also want to say that I was a juror. I was not a juror, but I was here for jury duty in Fulton County. And what struck me interesting was the jury duty is for everybody in Fulton County. And there were people from all ethnicities, all cultures, all walks of life who reported for jury duty in Fulton County.
And I believe that it was a lot of the things that were being said. It was not a house of worship, it's a World Cultural Center. But a lot of things that were being said about whether or not their style of worship, what would happen, who would be concerned there. And when we look at what Fulton County decides for a polling location, things that are considered, we are not to consider things like faith, but faith was not a faith-based location. So we will discuss changing the emergency balloting location, which probably will make it not as convenient for the citizens, but we're doing what we need to do since it's unavailable. Can I get a motion to amend so we can have a discussion for the emergency ballot location, and what the department is trying to do in order to accommodate voters who could no longer go to that center?
Motion to amend the agenda.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, it's unanimous. So we'll add the emergency polling relocation right after review of the absentee ballot return at AV location. Now moving to the approval of minutes. Any questions or concerns before we get a motion regarding the March 11th, 2026 meeting minutes and the March 16th, 2026 meeting minutes? If not, can we get a motion for them?
Motion to approve the minute.
All those in favor say aye. Chair votes aye, the minutes are approved. And we turn now directly into the monthly operations report.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Our staff has been diligently working to prepare for the May 19th election, including all of the recruitment, all of the training, equipment allocations, confirming the poll place reservations, updating our voter records, etc. We sent the operations report to the board and we'll take any questions at this time.
Questions regarding the operations report? In brackets.
Yes, I've got a couple of questions. Are we on target with recruiting and training?
Yes, we are on target for advanced voting and election day recruitment and training.
Right.
With this new policy that we're looking at, picking up all the ballots every day during early voting, but all of those materials will be taken right after they're picked up to the department. Is that correct?
Yes, so we will have couriers in teams of 2 that go to each advanced voting location. There's a chain of custody form that has to be filled out by the poll staff to ensure that everything is sealed in its container. And those items will be then transported to the election hub to be locked into a secure cage.
And aren't we going to discuss that further in 10? We're going to talk about it in details, the SOPs of it.
Does anybody else have questions of it? I wanted to come back to the discussion we had before about the homeless people that are not registered at the department. Then this came into law January 1st of 2025. I wanted to see what kind of progress we were making on that.
Okay, so as we stated in the last meeting, the legislature changed and updated our website to ensure that that information was on our website. That people had to use our office as their mailing address. Because of all of the rhetoric on social media about the homeless voters, we have sent out a letter to all of the homeless shelters and religious institutions that possibly house homeless persons to advise them that to please inform us if their shelter to reconfirm, so we can flag that in Jarvis, because that ability was not able, that was not able to be done in ENET. But in Jarvis, we can flag it as a homeless shelter. That way, if you see 5 or more people registered at a church, it is valid, because sometimes they do have shelters in their basement. Last meeting, I know the Catholic Church across the street does house homeless persons, and they do reside there. So that all those letters were sent to the shelters and the churches, so they can call our office, confirm their shelter, confirm if they allow persons to reside there, as well as telling them to tell the voters, the homeless voters, to update their information on every fee so they can be in compliance with mailing address being our address. And I actually sent the copy of that letter to this board. If you hopefully receive that email.
Okay.
And adding on to that, if any of the board members know of shelters maybe that might have been missed or in your area, if you could send that copy. I personally have tried to also reach out to other shelters and places to make sure that the unhoused understand what their voting rights are. And I think we as a board should reach out, because the department may not know, but we may know something in our own communities, and we can reach out and give them that same letter to make sure they're dispersing it amongst the homeless population that they serve.
Okay, and I also wanted to see out of that, I mean, we have thousands of registered and homeless shelters. And I know you said that, I think when you were talking about the Catholic Church, you said last meeting, I believe it was 19 people were actually living in basement facilities. But have we shrunk the number of people that are registered at homeless shelters?
Well, let me be clear. I know that there was a lot of social media posts about the number of people. Sometimes, and what they did not say is that a lot of people are inactive and have not voted. So those persons did move. They probably did not update their information. But I was going to advise that there is a total number. But again, what they do not say on their social media posts is persons are inactive, have not voted. And again, if they choose to do so, if we will flag them if they have not updated their information. So they do decide to come to the precinct to vote, they will be advised to update their information and have to vote provisionally until they update that information. But I don't have an actual number for you of how many people, but again, we are going through those files.
Okay.
Ms. Glenn, since we raised that, do you have a comment as to how it gets flagged in the system, how it gets reported to you, and what your department's done?
As far as
The homeless.
the homeless, we, like Director Williams said, we have the ability to put it in Jarvis, which is an acceptable or homeless shelter, so that we know people can be registered there. As far as the number, no, we don't limit the number of people that can be registered there. Our VEO department has gone out and they're working closely with all of those facilities to just make sure what services that they do have there. And as Director Williams said, if they're inactive in the system, if they haven't voted, so that's the first flag. So they have to show when you're in an active status, you have to verify your address with your ID when you come to cast the ballot, or you will have to cast a provisional ballot. I don't know what else was the question.
Thank you.
Any, just so people remember, there was mention of the numbers of ineligible people who vote on our system. But the NVRA, we can't get rid of anyone unless they take them off regardless, unless 2 federal elections without voting. So yes, we have those names on our voter rolls, but it would be against the law to take those things off until the second federal election has passed and they haven't voted.
Anyone else? Member Adams.
Under supplies and logistics, it says that 18 Fulton County time-limited couriers were onboarded. Is that for the picking? I'm just wondering, I know that they'd be doing other things, but is that primarily to cut the balance on the early voting location?
No, we always have 18 couriers that are time limited. They have other duties. They do supplies and logistics. They do deliveries of supplies to our offices, etc. But they will be included in those pickups. But no, they're not there specifically for that. It'll just be added to one of their work duties.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have election update. Is there anything else you want to tell us about the update on the election for May 19th?
No, actually, we, have finished ballot proofing. So the sample ballots are on the website. We have advised voters to make sure that they go to, to their actual, to MVP to see their exact website. The one that's, the sample ballot on the website is a composite. So if you want to see your actual ballot assigned to you, you would need to go to MVP to see that information. But it is on the website. We will do an update to the polling locations, once the board approves what we have before you today with the emergency rules. Outside of that, we are just preparing.
Okay, thank you. Now, can you provide an update on Fulton Facts webpage, or is that external affairs doing it separately?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
The update on Fulton Facts webpage.
Yes, so thank you to External Affairs for getting this website updated. We have asked that we assist with combating misinformation. A lot of times people post things on social media that is not factual and do not provide a response. So this allows voters to find an avenue to where they can get factual information. As of today, that site includes our comment regarding the 2020 election, the FBI seizure, the sheriff race. Those facts are on our website. And we will continue to update that as things arise, just to give people an avenue where to find factual information.
Any questions regarding that?
Yeah, I have a question. You had proposed comments for that before. Is that what we're using on the site?
What do you mean by comments?
You had proposed, you had 2 or 3 pages of like about 2020 and the FBI coming in.
Yes, so I emailed this board a link to I think I emailed you all twice, a link to the Fulton Facts page, so you can go ahead and review it. But yes, I had emailed you before we posted it, the information about the 2020 race. I believe the sheriff race was in the last meeting, but that information is on the website, and I also emailed you the link.
And so anyone can see it, but I do recall that you sent us the links prior for comment and you sent it out. Yes. Any other questions regarding that? Okay, so we'll move to update on the text by email communication tool that we're using for voters to opt in. And I know you sent us an email to the board saying test this out, but tell us how it's going.
Yes, so we did do our first run of our email and text platform. So that what happens is when we encourage voters to go to MVP to update their address and their mobile phone number. If that information is there, once we send out a message, they will receive that. We did do our first trial run, and what we are circling back to do is to change the appearance of it to have the logo and things of that nature. So we did get feedback from some voters questioning if it was spam or not. So we're going to make sure the appearance of it is just more official. So they're working on that with the vendor. Outside of that, we will do this again in maybe a few weeks or so, but I will send this board a schedule when it is determined of when those messages will go out. But the goal is to send out the message to voters to remind them that advance voting has started. If they have a precinct relocation, they will receive a text or email when it is close to those dates. But we'll continue to do that. But again, we did have our first run, and we're going to change the appearance of it so it looks different last name.
Member Crawford.
Have we fixed the distribution list to reach everyone?
They're working on that as well. And what Ms. Crawford is referring to is some of the numbers that populated did not, it messed up the digits. So they're going to go back in and fix that as well. So it'll be good reset.
Member Evans.
I know we've worked, I think this is a great program, and I know we've worked to increase the number of phone numbers and email addresses. Any updates on how much we've increased, or just a general idea?
We do not have that number. Once I guess in a few months when we pull the file, we'll see if the number increased. But we'll compare numbers when we get a few months from now, see if voters have actually gone out there and getting information through word of mouth to put that information in repeat. They have not done.
Okay, thank you.
Member Russo.
Director Williams, is there anything we can do at the May 19th meeting to offer to voters, alert them that if they wanted to receive a communication via text
external affairs to see what we can put out. And then we'll circle back. I'll send you all emails to see what we can come up with.
I thought I saw something that External Affairs was sending out. I thought I saw something that came through email from External Affairs either last week or something, telling voters like for their voter information and when the end of polling locations about the text and the communication. I think we should really try to push that out so we can get more
So I meant
voter awareness.
on site, so if you don't hear on the email.
If you come in to vote,
Right.
Yeah.
And you're aware that you could sign up.
Okay, so Virginia could correct me if I'm wrong, but I was advised that the flyer that was created by External Affairs advising people to update their information was posted on social media. Yes, it was.
I believe his question is on voting day, is there something that can be posted at the election, at the polling location?
Yes, so those actual flyers are gonna be part of the supplies for advanced voting and election day. And we can make them into posters. Yes, we can do that.
Yeah, I think the size will make a difference because it might get lost.
We will, we'll do that. We'll make them into posters.
All right, is there anything else further from any, before we move to the next? Okay, under new business, review and impact of new legislation.
Okay. Here we are. Getting there.
Good morning, members of the board and Fulton County citizens. So if you saw on my report, I showed you the bills that we have been watching for this session. And so in terms of what has actually passed that would have some type of an impact on the elections department would be 369, which changes the Fulton County, the local positions in Fulton County with the exception of sheriff to nonpartisan. So that means that we, for our office, we would then be qualifying all of those candidates. And then that will be more so from a voter education perspective, making sure folks are aware of how to research candidates. So that is the one election bill that passed. As far as SB 214, which, from we're part of Gario, and that is the one that we were supporting, which was extending the deadline for the removal of the QR code and starting the new process with the paper ballot system. And for the January 2028 election, that was passed out of the House, but it did not be called up from the Senate side. And then there was another bill, HB 960, which was the language from the original SB 568 that failed. That was substituted on the Senate side, passed out of the Senate, was not taken up from the House. And so what we have received from the Secretary of State's guidance is that there will be some guidance coming as to how the SB 189 will be complied, how we will comply with that removal of the QR code. There have been talks that there may be a special session called. I do know that there have been some other boards that have passed the resolutions and set that down with what you all thoughts would be in terms of that. So that could be a category that you all, avenue that you all take for this. But as of right now, we have not received any more information since sign and die as to how we would comply with the removal of the QR code for SB 189.
Ms. Williams, has the Secretary of State given us any guidance as to that?
The Secretary of State did send out a notice just saying that they will, to be on standby for more information. A lot of counties were asking the question and they said they will advise us when they have more information at this point. So that's the only correspondence we received.
Any questions or comments from Member Crawford?
I believe that I think that we need to be starting to gather numbers for moving forward so that we have costs that we know we're going to incur. And I think that as soon as I know Ms. Williams is extremely busy, but as soon as she can give us numbers as to what it would cost us to move forward, that would help us also make a decision on how to either contact the state or whatever.
To proceed with what the budgetary items, the additional costs that would cost. Ms. Williams?
Yes, I will work on an estimate. If you give me about a week or so, I can draft that. I'm sure it'll be in the millions, but I will draft that, yes.
Member Sullivan?
Yes, could I just get a clear statement of the legal impact of the failure of these bills? You could just state then what is the current law, when would it kick in, and
how would we go about complying with it from staff or council? I'm not sure.
Since it's a legal impact, let's see what the legal thing says.
So right now, for the primary, everything remains the same. The law changes July 1st, 2026, and that is at the time that QR codes are not to be used for tabulating the ballots. As currently the machines, that is the only way they are programmed to tabulate. I know there was some indication from the Secretary of State last year requesting money to reprogram those or to get new machines. That he has said that was not funded. Now, state law 21-2300 does require that there be a uniform method for the counties for casting ballots. So the counties by state law are supposed to, under the direction of the Secretary of State, who has the authority to sort of choose the voting system within the requirements of state law. So the counties should, that's why I'm expecting guidance from the Secretary of State so that all the counties are on the same path come July 1st if there's not a special session. That could be that he comes out and says we need to hand count ballots because we may still scan them and that would be an unofficial tally and they have to be hand counted to be the official tally. The way SB 189 stated is that those should not be used to tally the votes. That's one option, I know that's been discussed, that would, require a lot more staff. And there has been talk about another special session, so I think at this point, we need to, because I don't think a county right now can choose on their own what we're going to do. So I would hope in the next couple of weeks, we get more definitive response from the Secretary of State as to what the plan is for the entire county. And that may mean for, all those counties that do a July 1st budget that they need to think about their November budgeting or even their budget for November is going to require more additional staff.
But just to confirm, the primary in May is not subject to the law.
Correct.
Okay.
So, but yeah, the law takes effect July 1st.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Member Evans.
So since we have no legal way to vote right now or after July 1st, I'm not sure that while you're busy, you should spend time coming up with the budget because we don't know how we're gonna vote, right? I mean,
Like I said, we're gonna wait for SOS directives, but just to piggyback off what the attorney said, just for the 2020 election, and we had to hand count one contest, it took 275 teams of 2 people to sit there and hand count that one race. So if you're literally asking us to sit there and hand count every contest on a ballot, I would have to figure out what time frame and at what cost that would be, because those people did not come for free, they were paid. And that is gonna be a big cost to the county, but I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but again, we have to wait for SOS. Right now, how we're running elections is legal per the law, and we will we'll make sure we're in compliance when we get new directives from the Secretary of State.
Right, because what the attorney is saying is it has to be uniform. And I believe your statement speaks more to the fact of how difficult it was in 2020 then, whether or not it is a good utilization of time to try to come up with a budget. And I can understand why Member Adams is saying that, since we have to do it uniformly throughout the state.
Right, yes, you're correct. So every county has to follow the directives by the Secretary of State. We do not make up our own rules. So once we get those directives, we can figure out exactly what the cost is.
okay. And just to clarify, you said in 2020, you had 275 teams?
Roughly, yes, of teams of 2.
And how long did it take them to count one race?
I want to say,
Like 4
I don't remember, maybe like 4 days,
Yep.
5 days, I don't
It
remember.
was
but
4
it
or 5
a lot.
days.
And that was at the, now, the only thing that
Yep,
we
that
can
shit was crazy,
we have
y'all.
the floor space because we moved the elections up. We won't have to rent out.
And then on the last day, they found all of these votes. It was so weird.
And it is, you're not saying that's what it took, so it's not like, it's an estimate that you think it was 4 or 5 days. Okay.
Yeah, the estimate, yeah.
Okay. moving on to, approval of intergovernmental agreements for the city of Fairburn and South Fulton.
Yes, so the city of Fairburn and the city of South Fulton both have special elections, and they have asked for us to conduct those elections. Their contest will be added to the May 19th ballot. So there is no cost to the city. They have been advised that if by some chance there is no statewide runoff or no countywide runoff, and if they have a runoff, they would have to bear that cost for the June election. But we were asking for board approval to conduct their elections for the May election with a possible June runoff.
Is there any questions before we take?
Yeah, so, and I kind of saw these, but how much are we charging those cities for that?
There is no cost because there is no additional work at this time. We're just adding the question to the ballot. As I said, if there is a runoff, if they have a runoff, not for the state or for the county, then they would have to bear that cost. And it's probably gonna be the same as what they paid in 2025 for their runoff election.
Do you recall what they paid in 2025?
She said, give me the money, give me the money.
Okay, we don't have that number. Okay, all right. Can we get a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreements for the city of Fairburn and the city of South Fulton?
Motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement for the city of Fairburn and the city of South Fulton.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimous. Moving to review of the policy on absentee ballot return at the AV locations. What you have in your packet are the standard operating procedures that the department would like to use. And what we also have is the superintendent's own ballot drop-off policy for that as well. And I'm going to ask first Mr. Williams to explain it, then we'll. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Williams, will you speak to it first?
Okay, so the process is.
Yeah.
About the process of the.
Yes, so the operating procedures law.
Yes, so what will happen is for the advanced voting locations, currently we have 7 drop boxes. We have 32 locations, 7 have drop boxes, 3 already have a office on site. So the election hub is already an office, North Annex is an office, South Annex is an office. For the remainder of those locations, that staff will be given a sealed bag where voters can come and drop off an absentee by mail ballot. We have created the chain of custody forms. We have created training materials to advise the poll managers of how to receive these ballots. They will also be deputized as deputy registrars to be able to receive those ballots. We are purchasing the bags that are needed for that transport. And we're asking the board to approve that policy. So those SOPs have been drafted. I believe I did send a copy of that to this board as well for review. And I can take any questions at this time.
And will the manager or assistant manager, whoever receives it, date and time stamp it as well?
Yeah, so they will have to confirm the bag is empty when they receive it. They will seal the bag, sign off on that. If they receive any ballots, they will make sure those are in the bag. At the end of the day, they will open the bag, count those ballots and make sure that is correct, but reseal it again, and then the couriers will come pick them up, confirm they are sealed, and then of course it'll go to absentee to process with a chain of custody, again, the seals being confirmed again.
And once it goes to absentee to process, how is it handled there?
It'll be the regular absentee by mail procedures that is required by code. Yes, it is the regular. There's nothing different as far as when it comes to the absentee by mail process. It'll be the same exact process with that. I'm just a 3-day window to have those processed. Okay, so I'm sorry, but yes, but it'll be the same process as any other absentee ballot. The assistant managers will not process the ballots in any form or fashion. They're just receiving them, making sure they're in a sealed container, and then being transported to the absentee division process.
Attorney Pashuta, can you speak to the legality of this? Because we've had questions about whether or not this is something that is in the code, and can counties do something like this?
So when you request an absentee ballot, the code allows a voter to either send it back by mail or to hand deliver it to a registrar or a absentee ballot clerk. The code 212382 also allows the board to establish additional registrar's offices to receive those ballots. So, well, you voted on that at the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, that the advanced voting locations would be additional registrar's offices, so that a voter who wants to hand deliver a ballot, as they're allowed under the law, they don't have to go just to the main registrar's office or the two hubs, which are the full the registrar's office year round. They can go to an advanced voting location, and either, if it's one in the Dropbox, they'll put it in the Dropbox where they can hand deliver it. If they go to a location that has a Dropbox, but they want to give it to someone, they can be directed to another location where they can. Some voters feel more comfortable handing it to a person. So when it comes back to the main office, it's essentially being delivered in the sealed bags and then processed just as the ones that came in that day from the postman.
And has there been case law to discuss whether or not this is something that is legal?
So back in 2024, there was a state hearing and a federal hearing. The focus of that was receiving the ballots after the close of advanced voting and the close of election day voting. But it also encompassed that ability to set up locations to receive hand delivered ballots, and both judges in the state and in the federal. And it's very clear under state law that the registrars can set up these additional locations to receive the hand delivered absentee ballots.
Any questions from other board members? Member Adams.
Since these ballots are going to be picked up daily during early voting, along with the ballots of the scanners and any provisional ballots, that's correct, right? Okay. Since those are going to be picked up by the couriers and then delivered to the election hub, I'm assuming that the election hub will be open for the public to observe those coming in and for poll watchers in the tabulation. Is that correct?
I would have to see if that's required by code. It logistically will be a little difficult because of depends on where it's positioned. But if it's required for people to come and look at suitcases behind a cage, locked with a seal on it, we will be more than happy to escort them to that area if it's required. But what they'll be seeing is a locked cage that has suitcases with seals on them.
Well, I would think that if they were a poll watcher, they would want to see the seal numbers, make sure the seal numbers were the same. It's transparency is what we're talking about.
We will have to check with legal if that's a requirement.
And can we make sure that we do get an opinion with regard to legal, because we do want to make sure, I know that certainly the public should be able to watch couriers stand in public places and watch the couriers pick them up, whether it's inside the election, the polling location, or outside. I think the additional question that Member Adams has asked, once it's delivered, can the public then access an area? And if you don't have it, if you have the response now, that's fine, but if not, please investigate that to make sure that we're on four corners with regard to the law.
Yeah, I'm gonna double check, because I don't want to answer right off the top of my head. I want to confirm, and I will send you an email.
But the department will be making sure it complies with the law.
Yes.
Oh,
Whatever the
out.
code requires, we are going to.
Sorry.
Whatever the law requires.
Well, I'd say even if the law doesn't require it, it's transparent. You're moving ballots, and that's a pretty big step in our election process.
So let me just be clear, when scanners get to 1800, they were already required to be empty, and those ballots were transported to our facility. At no point was there any request for a poll watcher to come in and look at the bag that was left the building. They were there to see it empty, and the bag was transported, but we have never received a request from a poll watcher to come and see those bags. But again, if it's required by code, we will comply. But just for the record, those ballots were transported prior to us making this change in our procedures.
Let me ask a question for legal. Does the law say it has to, the law allows you for less than 1,800, from less than the amount to also, and it does it not?
Yeah, that is actually a state election board rule,
Okay.
that you, once you get to, it's actually 1,500, once you get to a certain amount, it has to be empty, and then there's discretion with a lesser amount to enter it, and that is not uncommon for counties to go in and get light-handed and more secure locations.
Then at the polling locations, they're all around the county. Okay. Member Adams.
So, I appreciate what you're saying, that you've never had anybody when you're going to pick up one scanner. But we're talking about probably 64 scanners daily to pick up the ballots for early voting, which is about, I don't know, 70%, 60, 70% of our ballots. So I do think that that's not a fair comparison when you're really thinking about it. I mean, because each evening you'll have, how many groups of couriers are you gonna have?
There are 32 locations, so each one's gonna, they're gonna have 2 teams, or a team of 2 for each one. So, or at least 32 teams. But again, my point was saying that regardless, that was never actually seen. But we will comply, it's not a problem. But my point was that ballots have been transported in one form or fashion before the close of polls. And the reason why we decided to do this is because if we had a polling location, like Buckhead Library, and the ballots are still there, if that building were to burn down, what would we have in regards to the election? So therefore, we want to remove those things and make sure it's secure. So if something were to happen, we have paper receipt of the ballots that were cast.
Right, but beginning like at the end of early voting, how we do it currently, the scanners are sealed up in the department and they're not open until election day. So we're talking about 19 funds taking ballots out, putting them in a bag and bringing them to the department. I just think, and the reason I'm asking this is I've been asked, is it going to be open to the public and poll watchers? Because we're moving 60 to 70% of our ballots.
Yeah, we'll be moving 100% of them by the time it's over. But again, yes, if it's required, we will comply.
And I want to clarify, at the polling locations, as long as the poll manager are still there and they haven't locked it up, the poll watchers do have the ability to watch that process there. What I want to confirm is the process when it comes back to the hub. I need to confirm that section, but as far as the polling locations, they are welcome to be there and we start opening and all the way through the end.
And the public can come in after they close.
No, not after they close.
Not before they close.
Yes, so even if the polling has ended, but.
I'm talking at polling locations.
Even once voting is ended for the day, as long as the employees are still there, the poll manager is still there doing that. Yes, the public can still watch at that time.
I didn't understand that that's what she was
But
asking.
once poll manager locks up the building and everything, I need to confirm whether they can then come to the hub and then also watch that transfer process. I need to confirm.
And I want to make it clear, I was thinking that Member Adams was saying after it was locked, after they locked the doors, no one could come in. But of course, once polling is stopped for the day, as long as they're in there, that's why I was saying no. That's why I say no, they can't come in. All right, any other questions?
Yes,
Member Selby.
Director Rose, could you just describe just generally the safeguards that are in place for this process, just for my education of the public?
Yes, so it's required to have, like I said, when we had to empty when there were 15, that's, give me for saying 18. It was always teams of 2. Teams of 2 people will come. They will make sure the poll manager have to empty the scanner, put those in a sealed container, fill out a chain of custody, and ensure that it is sealed and noted on the chain of custody. When the couriers come, they confirm that seal, take that bag, transfer it to the hub, and it is locked in the cage, and again, it's confirmed when it arrives. It's always monitored by the same team too, so it's not, the chain of custody is not broken. So that is the process, and we're doing this, just like I said before, if something were to happen to that location, at least we have something in our hands. If not, we have to literally redo the entire election. So it's a safeguard, just internally that we've decided to do, to be on the safe side if something would happen to the location. So I'm not sure if I answered your question correctly.
You did, and in your experience, are there any opportunities for glitches, and how do you deal with it? Do you have any concerns about the process, the volume of ballots that are being moved?
No, because we have outlined a pretty accurate, streamline the process to make sure that we see exactly where the ballots are going. Again, at the end, we are still going to count the ballots. After every election, literally count the ballots at a money counter, to make sure that what's on that results tape equals to the number of paper ballots that before you all certify, and none of that will change.
So there's redundancy.
Yes, so we will know at the end of the advanced voting period, let's say we picked up 19 bags from Buckhead Library. Those all the ballots in that 19 was on that tape, and that tape is ran on tabulation night. So there's still checks and balances along the way. It also should match up with the recaptures and all the other things that happen in that process.
Ms. Evans, have we had problems sometimes at polling locations with regard to people locking doors or making sure it was secure? Did you speak to that?
Yes, so we did have an occasion where a poll manager forgot to lock the door. Thankfully, it was an internal door, but that was still still a concern that if you forget to lock a door, or if it's an access card and that were to be reached at one of the libraries, that stuff is sitting there overnight, that we cannot have. Yeah, we need some type of check and balance. So that's why we decided to do this.
Other questions from the board?
So have we posted all of this information, this spreadsheet that says return of absentee by mail ballots at advanced voting locations through what we have in our packet, that is a copy of the absentee ballot bag chain of custody form? Have we posted those anywhere on the website?
On our website, it tells voters that you can return your absentee ballot in the advanced voting location. So yes, it is on the website. If you click on absentee, it says that you can for voter convenience, you go to any 32, whether it's a drop box, an office, or a person receiving that ballot, that is already on our website.
I believe she's asking about are you talking about the SOPs?
Yes.
SOPs aren't typically.
No, we will never post the SOPs on the website.
Okay. And are we voting on this today? I mean,
We already voted, last time I believe that you had voted no, and we voted on doing it. What we have today is, the board policy. We voted on the department doing it. This is a board policy as to what the board would want to see, and making sure that the law as superintendents is, correct. But we voted on actually having the department, have the sites. Yes, yes.
I'd like a chance to look this over. We received this today, and I'm not.
Any other comment from any other board member? Okay. Now moving to number 12, the emergency polling relocation, and that is the emergency polling location that was the Istanbul Cultural Center. And before Director Williams speaks to that, first with regard to the legalities of changing an emergency polling location change, can you speak to the law for that, Attorney Pursuit?
Yes, so under OCGA 21-265, you are not supposed to change the polling location within 60 days
almost
of the
there.
election unless there's an emergency event
That's
that
what we have.
occurs that makes the polling location unavailable. And in this case, the polling location has withdrawn. So at this point, we have to change the polling location. So I will let the director speak to the plan on what those voters, what polling location or what advanced voting location will be in place as an alternative. And then it'll be important to get the information out to the voters, but that will be communications. I would hope, it's not required, but I would ask the Istanbul Center, would they be willing at that basic period to test the signs, redirect the voters, since the precinct cards had already gone out. Just as a courtesy, they would like to how to do that.
Okay, I have a couple of questions on Ms. Williams. Prior to the Istanbul Cultural Center being designated as a polling location, did you reach out to those cities that to ask them for alternate locations when we had to move from the schools?
Yes, so we did reach out to the cities and advise if they had any suggestions in regards to polling locations. Please let us know. We did get feedback for some of the cities. Some places declined, some places said yes, but we did ask that question.
What about the cities where Istanbul Cultural Center, did they respond?
Yes, they did.
Okay, and before proposing it to the board, did you also send correspondence to the clerks as to where we were expecting to move from the elementary schools and from the centers to the Istanbul Cultural Center?
Yes, so anytime we do a precinct relocation change before this board approves, we send it to the cities and say, either this change is gonna impact your voters. Please advise if you have any questions or concerns. So before we present it to this board, we do ask for their input.
And do you also send it to the Board of Commissioners?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and then after that, if you get no feedback, then you bring it to the Board of Registration election.
That's correct.
Okay, Istanbul Cultural Center, when they said they were unavailable, what was their concern?
So when we were moving out of Many Oaks, we did a survey of the area to see what was available. We reached out to Istanbul Cultural Center, we did a site visit. It's a nice facility, a fellowship hall like any other. People were very friendly and kind, and were happy to be ready to serve their community. Unfortunately, due to the rhetoric, the rhetoric on social media, racist rhetoric, I might just go ahead and say that word, it's on social media. Now the facility has concerns about their safety, the safety of poll workers, and the safety of voters. So they have declined for use, and we completely agree with them. And we have found alternates. We're gonna have to merge these precincts now into a nearby facility because of this situation, unfortunately.
Okay, and were any of the cities concerned about it being at Istanbul Cultural Center before, or did they think they were good neighbors?
No, nobody had any concerns, and they said they were good neighbors.
Okay, what has the department come up with since we had to do this emergency? What are you proposing to us today?
So what we are proposing is, and again, all of these were originally at Many Oaks, and they have been moved into Istanbul Cultural Center for precinct AP 07A. That portion will go to Alfredo Library. For precinct AP 07C, that portion will go to Willis Park Recreation Center. And for ML 06A, that portion will go into Cambridge High School. And those are the three precincts that are impacted. Voters, we had our precinct cards to these voters. We will now have to remail precinct cards. We will now have to redo relocation signage. So there's a lot of things that have to happen to fix this. Unfortunately, it's the cost of the taxpayers. But we do still thank Istanbul for opening their doors, and we're sad that we had to relocate, but we will make it work for the voters.
Has the cultural center, have you talked about putting up signs to make sure that people come and report there, since they may not know that it's been changed, signs as to where they would have to look?
Yes, so they have been advised that we will put signage up at their location. We'll actually put signs up at Many Oaks. The signs at Many Oaks were going to say go to Istanbul. We will have started those, and we'll make new signs now to those changes I just stated. So the signs will be placed at Many Oaks and in Istanbul to advise voters where they are to go for this. And Istanbul did release also a media statement regarding this matter.
And I have one other question about it. So can you say for the public so they can understand why we relocated out of the elementary schools? Because people may not follow us monthly, but why did we leave the elementary?
Right, so last year we received a lot of concerns from parents because of school shootings and other things that are happening on schools around the nation that they would not like polling to be at their school because it just opens another window for people from the public to come inside the school. So after evaluating, we realized let's try to move out as many schools as possible. Fulton County is very huge and it's hard sometimes to find locations. And again, when things like this happen, that's when it's hard to find a neighboring place that will let us in. So we decided to move out of school. I think we had a total, since 2025, it's been a slow process. We had maybe a total of 65. We're down to now 17 schools that we're still in. And we're still working on those to see if anyone in the neighborhood would be willing to have us a precinct, if there's something that's compatible. And again, the reason why we do that, it would be perfect if there was always a virtual day or a teacher work day. That's not how it happens. We don't control the election calendar. So oftentimes when school is open, the students are there, you're, in the carpool line, voters are trying, it just turns into a little hectic. Often we have to relocate inside the school. Sometimes we're in the gym, then we can't use the gym, we're in the cafeteria or we're in the media room. And it turns into an issue about handicap accessibility. Another issue is when we have summer elections, usually the schools are renovating during the summer. So we always have to relocate because that's the time they can renovate. So it's just mainly for student safety, but if for all those other factors, it's just better for us to move out of the schools.
Any questions from other board members? Okay, so we need to vote for changing the polling location.
Motion to change the emergency polling location.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Unanimous. Now we're moving to a presentation on the daily voter roll and list maintenance process. Ms. Glenn?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Board, Fulton County Citizens. I was asked to provide a brief overview of how the registration maintains the role in Jarvis and to explain the voter list maintenance process. Next slide. So voter list maintenance is the process election officials use to maintain accurate and up-to-date voter registration. Maintaining accurate voter registration records is essential to protecting election integrity and ensuring voters receive the correct ballot for their precinct and districts. Keeping registration list current is a continuous process that includes adding new voters, updating voter information when a voter moves or changes information, removing individuals who are no longer eligible to remain on the voter rolls. Next slide. So the primary system used for Georgia to maintain voter registration records is Jarvis, which is the Georgia Registered Voter Information System. Jarvis allows election officials to process voter registrations, update records, and conduct voter list maintenance activities in accordance with Georgia laws and election procedures. Next slide. So this slide is an example of the Jarvis dashboard used by the registration division. The dashboard contains several tiles that identify items requiring review or processing. As staff process items, the numbers on the dashboard continuously change, reflecting both completed work and newly received items. Next slide. So our dashboard tiles are recently canceled voters, recently rejected voters, vital records, felon records, DDS cross state,
potential duplicates, DDS applications, Oliver, which is online voter registration applications, challenge voters, MVP, my voter page updates, pending voters, records to review, potentially ineligible voters. Next slide. So, when staff receives an application, the first step is to search Jarvis to determine whether the voter already has an existing record. If the voter record already exists, staff updates the existing record rather than creating a new. If no record is found, the application is processed as a new voter registration. All new voter registrations go through a built-in verification process within Jarvis to confirm the applicant's eligibility before the record becomes active. Additionally, voters may update their own information through the My Voter page online portal, which allows them to submit updates such as address or name changes. These updates are then reviewed and processed by registration division staff. Next slide. When processing a DDS application, Jarvis may identify a potential match with an existing voter record. In this case, staff was presented with a stare compare screen to verify whether the records belong to the same voter. Staff have several options when reviewing the record. Not a match, update voter, reject application, or search voter further. If staff determines that the record is a match, the existing voter record is updated rather than creating a duplicate. In the example shown, the voter status is currently inactive due to a national change of address. The voter's address is being updated based on the DDS application. Next slide. This slide shows a scenario where no matching voter record was found in Jarvis. Because there is no record on the left side of the screen to compare, the application is treated as a new voter registration and processed as a new voter record. Next slide. This slide shows an online voter registration application in Oliver, which is the term that we use. In this example, the voter submitted the application as a new registration in Fulton, but Jarvis identified a previously canceled voter record in DeKalb County. So our staff will review and compare the information and determine whether or not to update the existing voter record, reject the application, determine the records are not a match. This process helps prevent duplicate voter registrations across counties. Next slide. So OCGA 21-231 governs voter list maintenance for individuals who must be removed or updated in the voter registration system, including persons convicted of felonies involving moral turpitude, which we're told all felonies are involve moral turpitude, non-citizens, persons declared mentally incompetent by a court, and deceased individuals. The registration division works with state agencies and internal verification processes to ensure the voter registration list remains accurate and compliant with Georgia law. Next slide, please. So our felons, information regarding individuals convicted of felonies involving moral turpitude is provided to the Secretary of State by the Georgia Crime Information Center, GCIC, and the Council of Superior Court Clerks. The Secretary of State then posts these records to the county's Jarvis dashboard tile for review and processing. So when processing these records, staff verify the following identifying information: first and last name, date of birth, social security number when available, and address. Once verified, the voter is sent a notification letter advising that we have received information indicating that they may be serving a felony sentence and informing them of their right to request a hearing before this board. These records are then placed on a 40-day timeline for cancellation. If the voter requests a hearing, the 40-day clock stops until after a disposition by this board. Next slide. Non-citizens. Individuals identified as non-citizens do not appear on the active voter rolls, but appear in the pending voter file while their eligibility is being verified. Once confirmed as a non-citizen, the applicant is sent a notification letter advising that they do not meet the eligibility requirements to qualify as an elector under Georgia law. Next slide. Deceased voters. Under Georgia law, the local registrar of vital statistics in each county must prepare and transmit to the Secretary of State on or before the 10th day of every month a list of individuals who died during the preceding calendar month. Secretary of State is also authorized to obtain lists of deceased voters, Georgia voters from other states. Additionally, the registration division may receive information regarding deceased voters from published obituaries, death certificates, verifiable knowledge of a death, written notification signed by a family member. So when a deceased voter is verified through the Secretary of State, our office sends a first-class letter addressed to the family of the deceased voter at the mailing address listed on the voter's record. The letter notifies the family that the voter registration has been canceled due to the notification of death and expresses our condolences. Next slide. Mentally incompetent. Voters declared mentally incompetent are removed from the voter registration list upon receipt of official documentation from the courts. Once verified, staff process the cancellation in accordance with Georgia law. Next slide, please. We have a new tool that assists registration in verifying anomalies in our system. So the records review tile is new. It's new to Jarvis report that identifies voter records requiring additional review. Most of the categories flagged relate to potential address or data irregularities, which include 10 or more registrations at a single address, 50 or more registrations at a single address, business addresses, PO boxes, UPS, FedEx, DHL, mail, and mailbox store addresses that listed as vacant by the USPS. Age-related anomalies, including voters older than 104, birth dates listed before 1900, records where the registration date predates the voter's birth date, and records with no voter contact history. These records are reviewed by staff to determine whether corrections, updates, or further investigation are required. Next slide. Our miscellaneous list maintenance, national change of address, which are NCOAs, governed by OCGA 21-233, which governs the comparison of voter records with change of address information provided by United States Postal Service. The Secretary of State's office receives NCOA data from USPS identifying voters who may have moved. Confirmation notices are mailed to voters who appear to have moved outside the county. Voters are asked to confirm or update their registration information. We also receive ERIC cross-state data. ERIC, we are still part of ERIC, which is the Electronic Registration Information Center, which compares voter registration and driver services data across member states. ERIC identifies who may have more recent activity in another state. These voters receive a notice asking them to confirm their registration status. If the voter does not respond within 40 days, their record is moved to inactive status. The Secretary of State conducts these mailings at least every odd number year. Return mail. When the registration division receives return mail, staff process the information in Jarvis, and the voter status may be changed to inactive. If a forwarding address is provided, staff follow standard operating procedures and send the request to the voter asking them to update their voter registration record. Next slide, please. Our voter education and outreach. The Fulton County EO Division plays a critical role in supporting the voter registration division by assisting with the verification and correction of residential addresses. Key efforts include coordinating outreach with local colleges and universities to ensure student voter registrations reflect accurate residential addresses, working with homeless shelters and community partners to ensure Individuals experiencing homelessness are registered in accordance with voter registration. Assisting with address verification for residents of assisted living and senior living facilities. These efforts help ensure accurate voter rolls, proper precinct assignments, voters receive the correct ballot style. Next slide, please. Our GIS department, Geographic Information System. The GIS department, maintained by Fulton County's GIS department, is essential to ensuring voters are placed in the correct precincts and districts within the voter registration system. The registration division relies heavily on GIS data to validate residential addresses for voter registration, confirm precinct and district assignments, support redistricting verification, ensure voters receive the correct ballot style. Next slide, please. Since August 2024, the registration division has partnered with the Fulton County GIS team to conduct monthly audits of voter records, except during active election periods and runoffs. These audits review and identify precinct mismatches between street addresses and assigned precincts, duplicate voter records, same name and address, invalid or ungeocoded addresses that's just made up addresses that somehow got on the roll. Voters registered at commercial addresses. This collaboration helps strengthen voter list accuracy and data integrity. Next slide. So as mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, list maintenance is an ongoing and continuous process through the combined efforts of registration staff, the Secretary of State's office, GIS, VEO, and other verification systems. And I do want to give a shout out to our cities, because all of the cities, before every election, they get to see the voter roll, they see all of our street addresses, and they participate in helping us to have accurate street information and address information in the system as well. So we work to ensure that Fulton County's voter registration list remain accurate, secure, and compliant with Georgia law. Any questions? When did the Georgia registration review application tool come into existence? Okay, so the Secretary of State introduced it in December of 2025. Because we were in an election, we were only able to start processing our January of 2026. You're saying Fulton, that's when Fulton started? Okay, and how do those documents and those records get to you? They all show up on our daily dashboard. When we started, Fulton County had 53,711. And as of this morning, we're down to 13,000. So we have been working the records to review and trying to meet a deadline prior to our election in May. When you're working the records to review, you're also getting the daily additional totals that in Jarvis the entire time. Those are in addition to that. Yes, yes. And how many people are working on it? Our department, we have 16 positions. We have actually 14 full-time employees right now, and everyone, including myself, we work on it every day. Every day? You're working on it? Yes. I don't have a question. Anyone else? Member Adams?
Is that part of Jarvis?
The records to review?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And have you had any problems with Jarvis?
Nope.
Okay,
Not at this time.
good, good. Also, you mentioned, Eric doing the cross state. Eric's doesn't have any of our bordering states as clients, right?
No.
So how do we get information from our bordering states?
The Secretary of State does have, with everyone, I think, but Florida, because they don't protect PII. They have individual agreements with Alabama, Carolinas, Kentucky. But I think they have one with Florida, but they don't share with Florida because they don't guarantee protecting PII. Member.
So I think that about answers it, but I'm assuming that it's a problem that we don't have any of the information from Florida. Is that right?
It seems like a lot of people move from Georgia to Florida.
They do. But they used to be members of ERIC, but all those states, left the. So we can only do, deal with what we have.
Member Crawford.
Is there somewhere where we can, display this slideshow with the exception of page 7, 8, 9? Since we have so many questions on list maintenance, would it go on the My Vote app or someplace?
Let me double check if we could possibly put it on phone fax about voter roll maintenance.
Yeah.
How we put it as a PDF attachment. Let me look into that.
Because we have so many people asking and questioning our voter maintenance that this might help answer. If we find it doesn't answer any questions, we can always take it down. But I was just thinking, any thoughts, rest of the board?
I agree with you about not putting up those pages 7, 8, 9, which are ones with personal information for voters. I have another question for you. Was there, the old system, was that ENET?
Yes.
And when ENET and Jarvis merged together, was there any difficulties or problems? There was the merger.
That's comical, but yes, lots of problems. But the Jarvis that we are operating with today is hands down 200% better. And ENET, the transition or the transfer of data, there was some integrity issues because I can't explain all of those things, but yes, Jarvis is now hands down 200% better.
Does the department still have to answer questions over what things that happened when that merger came about?
Yes.
Any further questions from anyone? Okay, thank you, Ms. Glenn, we appreciate it. Now moving to, we have a challenge hearing scheduled. Last week, we voted to have a challenge hearing. I was advised last night that the person, the candidate, Ms. Henyard, contacted the department and said that she had not received adequate notice, that she had found out about it from seeing a TV program or something like that. It was reported on the news, and that's when she was aware of it, and she would like to see if we could continue it. I think that if we did not send it in a manner in which that we alerted her, we did not call her, from what I understand, to tell her what the date was, that she received an email. But I know I'm in support of giving both procedural and substantive due process to a candidate. Plus the law, from what I understand from last week, when we had our hearing, it's subjective intent. And she was unable to be here on such late notice to present for herself. And we would need, I believe, the candidate for subjective intent. We also, from what I understand from our attorneys, we had suggested and said what things we wanted subpoenaed, but we have not gotten all of those. So, Attorney Pashuta, can you speak to what we received and what we haven't received?
Yeah, so there receive the voting history from Illinois. That was one of the things we requested. We did receive a certified copy of that from the Cook County Clerk. So if you do postpone it, that would give me some time to be able to follow up on some of those other items that we did not receive. But I do think also that the candidate should be here, just for due process purposes, and because part of that residency review is to weigh intent as well, and we would need to hear that from her.
Do we have the lease that we'd asked for, either a certified copy?
No, I have not received that. That's one of the items I need to follow up on.
Okay. Any other members? Member Crawford, then Member Evans.
What time frame do you need to anticipate to get information?
I would not want to put it out too far just because of the election coming up. I mean, I can follow up tomorrow. I would at least, because some of these we also made the open records requests, and I have not heard back on those. But I would say mid to late next week. But, you know, I also want to have it as soon as possible, and I don't know if the candidate gave you any indication of when she might be available or not.
Her unavailability was noticed and having to leave work and finding out at the last minute and having and being able to be here and also arrange, I believe it was childcare or something like that as well. But Member Adams has a question as well.
I understood at our last meeting, I understood at our last meeting that we had given her notice that we were discussing it at the last meeting. Is that correct?
No, we had told her that we would give her notice of the date because that's when we scheduled the date was the last meeting.
No, we were told that she was given notice of last week's meeting.
So
She wasn't to be there then.
she was told that we were discussing it, but we also told her we would follow up with a hearing date. That did not happen. The email did not go through, so we do need to we're required to give her, 3-day notice of a hearing? And that did not occur. That's why we asked for we told the chair that we would like for them to continue.
Okay, so I'm assuming from what you've said, she didn't listen to the meeting.
I would say she's not required to, we are required to give her notice of a hearing. And that's what we did not do.
And we do have her phone number, email address, physical address, we have ways to communicate with her.
Yes, we do. And we did not send that hearing notice properly.
Okay. You know, she's had a lot of notice, and she didn't give any indication on when she wanted this meeting?
It's not up to her to give the indications when she wanted the meeting. The reason why Director Williams is saying that she was not required to attend last week is because last week was when we were to set a hearing to tell her when to attend.
Right.
She wasn't required to be at our special called meeting. What she was told, I believe, and Director Williams, you correct us, is that there was going to be a special called meeting where we would determine the date that she was to appear.
Yes, that's correct.
And so we had that meeting, we let her know about it, she wasn't interested enough to watch it. I know she's not required to be there, she's not required to watch it.
And we can't presume to know what the candidate knew or did not know. So I want to be careful that we don't make aspersions about she didn't care or she didn't watch it, because we don't know. All we can go on is what we were told, and that was that she did not receive notice and found out from a TV program yesterday.
Okay. I think that we need to schedule a special meeting. So this will be the second special meeting for her. And I think that, you know, there needs to be clarity at some point. This will be our third meeting about the same thing. And so I don't know if anyone has any proposed times to do it.
Member Silver.
Well, I agree with Member Adams, but I had a few more questions. The statement that we did not give proper notice, where is the process for notice set forth?
So it's not in the section related to qualifications, but when you look at other sections of the election code, like when the board evaluates, there's a question about whether someone's a qualified elector, or if there's a challenge to an elector. Those all discuss about 3 days written notice of the date, time, and place of hearing.
Okay.
So since this is also reviewing essentially residency qualifications, I believe we should use those same requirements that are in those other sections of the code.
And so we did send an email, correct?
I'll defer to staff.
Right, so again, this person was qualified by the Republican Party. We were able to get the information for her contact information. We advised her, we reached out to her when the challenges came up about getting a lease and things of that nature. She did send that. But when when the board decided to schedule a hearing, the email that we sent did not go through. So therefore we have to give her a proper hearing notice, and we did not send that. But again, we had her contact information, we reached out to her. She was very cooperative with the information that was sent.
We just have to give her proper notice per code.
So that means we had the wrong email, or what can you say didn't go through?
Like a typo,
Okay.
yeah.
Understood.
So it was a technical
Got it.
problem, which
Okay.
that is not actual notice if it didn't go through. And I would suggest that we email, but also even do snail mail. And just send it to the post office as well, so we can verify that we send it both ways.
And then what about timing, coming up on the May election? What is the indication of when she needs to have this kind of resolved?
Well, at this point, so the board has the power to hold a qualification hearing at any time before the election. It could be the day before the election. At this point, the ballots have already gone to be printed. I'm not sure when they're coming back. So there are procedures if someone is disqualified after the ballot printed. So I think those procedures are going to take effect whether you have the hearing this week, next week, or the following. But I mean, obviously, advanced voting, I can't remember what date that is. And the Uocava ballots. So there is a chance the further you put it out that if someone is disqualified, that some of those absentee ballots may have already gone out, or some of the Uocava ballots have already gone out, and those votes would not count. So that is one risk, even though you have the authority to wait, all the way up until the election, advanced voting, absentee, all of that. Won't have the notices if you do decide that she's not qualified.
Any other questions? At this meeting, though, we should determine first a motion with regard to continuing the hearing, because it's set for today, so we need a motion for that.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue this hearing based on not having enough information and Ms. Henyard saying that she doesn't have enough notice. I'd like to make, the motion is to have a special meeting next Thursday at 11.
Well,
And-
first, let's do the motion to continue for continuance, separate
Okay,
from a
motion
date.
to continue. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, it's unanimous. And let's check to see, Ms. Adams has proposed next Thursday, but let me look at my calendar.
I will be out of
Let me
town
look at my calendar.
Thursday, Friday.
Okay.
So, and Wednesday is gonna be tough.
What's your availability? Okay. I'll find out mine as well.
And I'll remind everyone that Wednesday is a state election board meeting.
I have to check my. Just a second, let's check, take a minute to check our calendars. I have to get my.
We've been on for almost 2 hours.
Anyone have any objection Monday the 20th at 11? Not you, Attorney Bashir.
Yeah, that works. with me.
Okay, so can we get a motion for Monday, April 20th at 11 a.m. to have the special call meeting for candidate Tiffany Henyard?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we continue this meeting and meet on Monday, April 20th at 11 a.m. at the Elections Hub for candidate Tiffany Henyard.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Chair votes aye, it's unanimous. And we'll make sure that it goes out both, and hopefully by today, mail and an email and a personal call. So you can personally call and to let her also know, but document all those 3 ways, okay? I don't have any other matters that I'm aware of. Is there a motion to adjourn?
No, ma'am, but I do have, a personal privilege to have one comment. I would like to, vocalize my disappointment in the rhetoric around having elections at the Islamic Center, Cultural Center. I think it shows poorly on us that we aren't open to other religions, and I apologize to the Islamic Center for the rhetoric they've received and for feeling in danger. So this is my personal opinion, but thank you.
I second that.
I third that.
And everyone's heard what I have to say about this.
That's not nice.
Can we do a motion to adjourn?
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
All right, guys, I'm getting out of here. I'm so tired. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. How are you? Good. Keep y'all up to date and figure this out. But this is her same tactics. This is what she was doing in Dalton, ducking the server, acting like she didn't get served. So time. So you are 100% right. I'm trying to even see Latoya. I got glasses on and I can't see. I'm tired, y'all. This is my 4th 12 hours and I came straight after driving. I actually really like justice though. That's my thing. You know, and when people have trouble standing up for themselves, I don't mind it. So this really makes me delusional self. Y'all want to see what I saw? Y'all know I'm gonna have to do this. To the Dalton family, everyone who used to follow old content, obviously you see guys, I'm genuine. I'm in it to win it. I mean, as far as I can do whatever I can do to help. And that's what I'm gonna do. So do y'all think that Tiffany is gonna show up? They said they're gonna call her, they're gonna email her. and they're gonna send a certified mail. This is what I was about to stand in front of y'all. Y'all know I'm gonna do it. You know I'm gonna do it, okay? So with that goes to say, I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. I'll be live tomorrow morning for Grace in the Morning, and hopefully we'll get back to our schedule again, guys. This is the same area that I go to give food out. And do you see? Done. Wait, we gotta talk. How they trying to lower the votes from the homeless people? Now y'all know, they hold on. I think it's up a little bit. Y'all can see me. I'm walking around the thing. They be really off. So it's crazy because they said the only way they're gonna take them off the voter list is that they prove that they're mentally unstable on a roster from a place where they don't live forever. Like that's not how it works. You're concerned about them voting, but you're not concerned about housing them and putting food in their mouth. I wonder what initiative they give the homeless people to give them $5 or something, because that's not right. So where I get food at is, I'm about to show y'all. This, like, everything is right around. This building right across the street is where they have the tax lien sale. So I have done a video here showing the tax lien sale, the sheriff's sale. They do it right here every month, every second Tuesday. Y'all know that I'm into tax liens and tax deeds. I hope you guys can hear me and see me, but this is the block where the homeless shelter is, like, right up the street, y'all. And remember, I kept talking like the police station, the courthouse is here. When I ride by and was, I'm like, it's all right. The courthouse is everything. Hold on, let me see. Y'all may can't hear me. Could y'all hear me? Somebody calling me. Okay. Somebody from Jersey. Anyway, so with that being said, I love you guys. Pray for me to get home safe. It's not too far, but do something. That's all I'm saying. It don't hurt. It don't hurt. Write a letter. Like I said, I probably was the only boo-boo the fool that actually wrote a letter, but it is what it is. It made it somewhere. And if I could do it outside of a county that I don't live in, you guys can do it inside of your county. You don't have to stress yourself yelling, going through all of that. Write a letter, send it to the right organization, definitely the AG. Is documentation. And even if they don't do nothing right away, just because you document it, when it hit the fan, it's going to make it even worse for them. You see what I'm saying? So Fulton County crooked. They said they look as crooked as all hell. That was just a little bit like, whoa. All right, I'm off this. Love you guys. Bye-bye.